Thank you. Whoa. This room is haunted, so you may hear some strange sounds, okay? Thank you. Has anybody here, because this is not basically a Star Wars convention. Can't win them all. But has anybody here seen Star Wars? Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Return of the Sith. What else have I missed out? Revenge of the Jedi, Force Awakens, Rogue One. Seen this? Well, you have been paying, you and your parents and your grandparents have been paying my salary for the last 40 years. It's not over yet, is it? Is anybody going to see The Last Jedi? Me too. Well, the nice thing about being in the movies is generally, if you're nice, they give you a ticket. And you don't have to stand in line. On the other hand, you do have to go through a line of reporters who will endlessly ask you, what's it like to be in a Star Wars movie? Is it hot in the costume? How'd you go to the bathroom? Is that your voice? How'd you get in there? You look at it, oh, you're the other one, okay, fine. Yes, I have had every dumb question in the galaxy asked of me. And today will be no exception. Has anybody got a question they are dying to ask? Okay. Who was that? Did I pick you? Did I point and go, sir, do you have a question? Did I? Exactly. Does anybody have a question to ask of the only person to be in all of the 8 Star Wars films? It is more than 40 years since I stood on a lonely desert planet with its twin suns, its endless wastes of sand, its burning heat. And I stood there and said, hello, I am C3PO, Human Cyborg Relations, and this is my counterpart, R2-D2. R2-D2, where are you? Do you remember?
Whoa!
More than 40 years, and I'm still doing it. Isn't that sad? But I'm so grateful for your support. Grandparents, thank you for having children. Parents, thank you for having children. Children, you are going to be part of my pension fund. And I am really, really grateful. So yes, questions. Or do I start by telling you an early memory? Because I'd never been in a film before. I'd been on television, stage, and radio. I'd only been acting a couple of years. I didn't know about films. I really didn't. We'd spent 6 months making the costume that I was going to rehearse with it. They were going to give me mirrors and cameras so I could see what I looked like, what Threepio looked like. Because we'd made bits and pieces and whatever. I had only worn it for 10 minutes, worn the costume in a garage at Elstree Studios for 10 minutes. And that was a little camera test, and it was horrible, and I bumped into a rubbish can and fell over and all that kind of thing. And then I said, well, can I now take it and rehearse with it? And they said, it's got to go freighted to Tunisia. Tatooine, stupid. And that was fine. So a week later, I think, there we were at an airport in London. And we had a charter flight for the crew and Mark Hamill and myself. And I hadn't met him, but at the door to the tarmac, there was a limousine. Big black limousine. And there was a bus. And this elderly gentleman left the building in front of me with, I assumed, his wife, and he walked towards the limousine. And they looked at me and said, "The bus." So I got on the bus along with the rest of the crew, and it so happened that when I got on the airplane, I was sitting here, pilots in front there, obviously, and I realized that sitting next to me across the aisle was Sir Alec Guinness. And I was kind of... Actually, selfies didn't exist in those days. Autographs did, but I was actually a little, not intimidated, but very respectful. But eventually we did chat across the aisle in between the food trolley coming up and down, you know. And he was very courteous. And then we arrive in Tatooine. I call it the Santa Claus thing, do you know? Should you tell the truth? I don't know. How many people here believe in Santa Claus?
Yes.
We get there, and there, strange enough, is a limousine. And a bus. I didn't have to ask, I just went to the bus. But as I was approaching the bus, and I saw Sir Alec, he got out of the limousine, and he came up to me and said, "Have they given you your per diem yet?" Well, I'd never been in the movie. I didn't know what a per diem is. Pocket money. Because they seem to have given me rather a lot, and I think you should have some. Oh, how can you not adore a man like that? Yeah? Time passed, and back in the studio, there was a chair. I was amazed. We all had chairs with our names on, you know, cross-legged chairs, canvas chairs, your name on the back. And mine said, of course it would, Anthony Daniels. For anybody in doubt, that's my name. And for anybody in doubt, yes, we are at FanExpo. Has anybody counted? For anybody who gets bored whilst I'm talking, please tell me at the end of the day how many times there is FanExpo. And I was really impressed to have a chair with my name on. Really impressed, because I'd seen movies about filmmaking. And it was always very grand. You had, because do you know there's nowhere to sit down on a film set? There is nowhere. You've got a set, and only special people have chairs. Yeah? And I was suddenly a special person. I felt quite happy. And I sat in it for a while, and I said, "Can you come and dress up? You know, put the suit on." So I did, and you know, we did that. And we did that a lot, and we did a lot. And about the third day, I realized my chair wasn't there anymore. It's like, so I said to a studio, there was a chair with the name Anthony Daniels on. And he said, "Oh, yeah, no, he never showed up." Are you there? And what had happened was that when I wasn't in the Threepio clothes, I had a long dressing robe, a toweling dressing robe, you know, very much like Obi-Wan Kenobi's robes. The crew thought I was Sir Alec Guinness's stand-in. Years past, do you want another story about Alec? It's sort of one, actually one of my favourites. Move forward several scenes where we're still actually we're on the Death Star now. The Death Star. In England, obviously, at Elstree Studios. And there was a scene where Alec is to say something like, we're looking for the princess, you know. Is there an Ewok? No. You know, level 5, detention block, AA23. Oh, that's another story, anyway. Anyway, Alec goes off to nuke the Death Star. Does something, doesn't he? Oh, the tractor beam.
Lower the shield to the tractor beam. Lower
There is a smart ass in every room. And he said, he had the line something like, maybe a few moments, whatever. And he went to the door. And the door, you know, the door on the Death Star, they all went up, down, or sideways, or like that, didn't they? Yeah? Do you remember? There is no such thing on the Death Star as a door with a handle that you do that. That just is not spacey enough, right? So the rule of the Death Star is, or any space vehicle, that the door must go up, down, sideways, like that. The trouble with not having a door with a handle is that you need the technology to raise this door. Yes? The technology was Charlie. Charlie was round the back. And Charlie had a rope here. Yes? You with me? Any questions so far? And on the word action, Sir Alex said, "I may be some time." And he put his finger on the button of the door. At which point, somebody said, "Charlie?" And Charlie, it's true, Charlie went, because the door was very heavy. It was made of very heavy timber, and big bloke that Charlie was, it was a ton of work. And eventually Sir Alec went through it, but this wasn't good enough for George Lucas. He wanted it faster. Now, there's only one Charlie, so what they did then was to decide. They went through the scene, and when Sir Alec put his finger on the button, the assistant director said, "Freeze." And being the professional actor that he was, Sir Alec stayed very, very still, whilst the door went at which point the AD said, "Action, I may be some time." At which point Alec went through the door, and then Charlie let go of the rope. And gravity being what it is, the door fell basically at 32 feet a second squared. Science. What happened then? What happens then? Not crash. Back in the edit suite, George Lucas took this film of the door going up very slowly with Sir Alex standing very still, looking pretty much towards camera. And there are 24 little pictures in every second of film. The clever thing is, if you take out 12 of them, you take out number 2, number 4, number 6, every other one, you end up with half the film to do the same picture, don't you? Which makes it look as though the door is moving very fast. It's a very old and very clever trick, which is great until when you watch this scene, you will notice Sir Alec. And what happened was, on one of those missing frames, he had begun a blink. People blink, right? The eyes close for a nanosecond. But the first bit was missing, so suddenly you have Alec looking, and for no reason at all, watch this at home, his eyes suddenly open like that, because when you open your eyes after a blink, they become bigger than they were at the beginning. So suddenly Alec is going, and it's for all the world as though he'd been goosed by an electric catapult. It's absolutely true. You can see it. You can see it. The same thing, of course, happened in Obi-Wan's cave, where he says, "This was your father's lightsaber. He wanted to have it." And he gave Mark Hamill this handle of a lightsaber. None of us had seen, the world hadn't seen a lightsaber until this moment, I think. Imagine a world without lightsabers. Scary sort of. And of course, Mark stood there, and again, with the trickery of thing, and he accepts it, and then the AD says, "Freeze." And then a man, everything stopped, and then a man, an AD, ran in, and I'm dressed up as Threepio, going, what's going on? And the man came in and stuck a wooden pole in the end, and then he runs out. And then the AD says, "Action." Wow, this is an incredible thing. Making movies is very, very strange, very different from seeing them for real. But there's lots of things you don't realize that are going on. For instance, do you remember the oil bath scene? The famous bathroom scene? Yeah? Oh, yes. But do you realize, it was very cold, I think it was in March or something, very cold. And basically I'm not wearing a huge amount under there because there's no room. So there I am on a hoist, on a lift, an elevator that is going to go down into this bath of vegetable oil, this green vegetable oil. And they've been kind enough to warm it because it was cold. When you see it, you will see the steam coming off it. Won't you? The steam was actually produced by 2 domestic electric kettles behind me. But it looked good, didn't it? And as I went down, I mean, the suit was very tight, and I was up to my knees before my toes felt something coming up. And gradually, as the oil got higher and higher on the outside, it followed very gently and smoothly and warmly. And at a certain point, if you watch very, very carefully, you'll see Threepio sort of smiles. But worse is to come. Watch this, and you'll see. I have very little vision apart from straight ahead, no peripheral vision, so I have to rehearse things very carefully. But in the scene, suddenly, Mark Hamill, and notice you never see me get out of the oil bath, I just suddenly, I'm there. Actually, earlier, watch this scene, because Mark is talking, Luke Skywalker is talking, and because I had no peripheral vision, I'm listening, but something must have distracted me, because I'm talking to him, and he says something, and he's suddenly not there. It's like I'd missed him going, oh, he's over here now. Nobody told me. But when I get out of the oil bath, he hands me a towel. He actually puts it in my hand. I want you to watch what happens next, because I am busy talking away, and very casually, not being quite aware of the effect I was giving, I'm polishing. Anyway, so there we are. Who had a question over here? We're going to be very brave. If there's loud sounds, put your fingers in your ear. So I loved working with Alec. He was truly one of the most professional people. Let's say the selfies are later. Now this with cameras. Live the moment. Possibly I was too quiet. All these people with cameras. What's wrong with actually being in the room? Because it's happening in the room where it's happening, isn't it? In the room where it happened. So somebody back here had a brave person, because as you know, I'm not the, okay. Stand up, please. What is your name?
Matthew.
Say it again, please.
Matthew.
Matthew. Just turn around here for me. Look at that. You're right over there. Wave to your mum. Wave to your mum. Hi, mum. Yeah. What is your question?
Well, first of all, there's 360 FanExpos.
Matthew, what that indicates is that you were so busy counting that you haven't listened to a word I've said, have you? Okay. Is he right?
Yes.
You've all been ignored. What's your question?
So, is it true that in episode 1 and 2, you used the original C3PO suit?
Episodes 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Yes, apart from the puppet suit. Do you remember the puppet? Yeah, when 3PO he was naked?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really. Do you want a story about that? It was quite funny because George Lucas, I forgot his name, don't tell anybody. George Lucas told me that 3PO was created by Anakin Skywalker, and I was delighted because Alec Guinness had been so nice to me. 3 days later, I realized that he didn't play, it was Vader. It was Vader who's his daddy. So it was a big surprise. What happened? Sit down, that's enough. Big hand. What happened with the suit? We had the suit in episode 1, which is a puppet, and that was worn by a member of the crew, and I was doing the voiceover and all that. In episode 2, The idea was that Padme and Anakin come to Tatooine, to museum. Again, horrible. And there was a scene in the middle of the night where Padme came in a blue nightgown, looking very beautiful. And there is the puppet, Threepio, sitting there, all alone. And she said, "Can't you sleep either, Threepio?" And I don't actually sleep. I just switch off from time to time. "Are you happy here, Threepio?" I'm not unhappy. I mean, everybody is very, very nice, but it's very difficult being like this. "Like what, Threepio?" "Naked, if you'll pardon the expression." And he went on to explain that Anakin had to leave before he had time to fix the coverings. And he had spent all these years, programmed for protocol and etiquette, naked. That is simply not protocol. And it explains a certain amount of his neurosis, doesn't it? And Padme listens very, very carefully and with great sympathy. And she looks down, and Threepio said, "But I'm sure he will come back eventually. He will return." Return of the Jedi, get it? And Padme is very thoughtful, and then she looks down at her feet and said, "But Threepio, there's a box of coverings right here." "Oh my, I've never noticed." 18 years in this room, and he'd never noticed, stuck in the middle of the floor. Only George Lucas could write stuff like that. But what also happened was, it was a very, very tough... Oh, and then you came, and the end of that scene was Padme. Hold that, don't speak. Padme came up to Threepio with the chest piece, and the last shot was Natalie Portman putting the chest on Threepio, on the puppet. Then you went away and did something else. Then you came back, and now you have Natalie with Threepio's face. And I was wearing just the eyes on the special rig. And Natalie, like one of those game shows where you got a golden shot or something, maneuvered onto the eyes and the thing. And Don B's put fridge magnets all around the edge of the thing. And suddenly, and there was C3PO, human cyborg relations, fully formed and thrilled. And in came Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, and everybody was really, really happy for Threepio, because there he was suddenly. And then George looked at it in the editing suite and went, "Nah, it's more important that we go and kill sand people." So I say nothing. I have no criticism. What was the question? What was it? Matthew, was it Matthew? Did I answer it? No, I don't care. Right. Somebody was over here, had an amazing, amazing question. Who was it? They died already? What? Okay. Well, I'm going to be very, very brave. Stand up. Stand up. Stay where you are. Okay. I'm just going to reach over. Careful.
So the C3PO, of course, was one of the only, the only character to appear in all the movies.
Is this going to take long?
No.
Because I think it's better if the answers are longer than the question.
It won't. But in The Force Awakens, he was completely unrecognizable because of the red arm. One, will we ever find out how he got the red arm, and if no,
oh please,
what do you think happened?
Has anybody read The Phantom Limb?
Yeah.
So, The Phantom Limb is a very sensitive comic book that actually describes exactly how 3PO gets his arm. And I'm surprised that a major Star Wars fan like yourself know that. Okay, feel free to ask somebody else who's read it. Who's got another question? But a good point. Okay, if you think Young lady, stand up, and can we have a camera in this beautiful... Oh. Can we have a close-up? Yeah. No, I've seen you. What are you doing? It's too late to be modest now. You come dressed like that. I'll be picking this up. I can't see. Did you count on the 360 FanExpos, the one on the screen there, which keeps popping up? Right. Can we get a shot of this? Turn round to the camera and... Oh, wait a minute. You have to come here, darling. Jesus. Okay, I'm going to give you... Okay, hi. It's going to be a very intimate moment. Can you stand here?
Can I sit next to you?
Yes? Why are you putting your clothes on?
Because... You get the whole effect.
I just... Right. Do we have the whole effect? Okay, go. There better be a good question.
Okay, so my best friend is a giant Star Wars fan. Like, gigantic. It's kind of her whole life. And I told her that I would ask you a question for her. I love Star Wars too, but...
Can you tell me when the question starts?
Okay, she just wants to know, since you were in all of the movies,
Oh,
which one
it started. You didn't tell me. Got to do this all on my own, haven't I? No relying on you people, right? Go.
Which one was your favorite one to work on?
Is that the question?
And why?
There's no good adding like supplementals at this time. Is that which was the favorite?
Written down.
Well, there weren't any long words in it. Education is a dying art. I have it written down. What was your favorite movie?
Which one to work?
Well, favorite's one word, so that's 5 words, right? What was your favorite movie? Right, okay.
Well, she had a few questions. I had to clarify.
That's what worries me, okay.
Yeah.
We could be here all day, just talk amongst yourselves. Just count the spaces between them. What was her favorite one? They're always very... it's not easy for me being in the suit because I'm slightly separated from everybody else. Less so now that the costume is easier to put on and take off. But back in the day, I was basically locked in that suit, which was rather more figure-covering than this one. Sorry. A little more figure covering, and I was locked in there alone. And to begin with, of course, people would just come up to me all the time saying, as they do to you, saying, gosh, you look fantastic, this is incredible, you were perfect, Roy, you are, because nobody had seen a costume like this. After a few days, I had become an object. People forgot I was in there. They accepted, because of my brilliant portrayal. They accepted that I was a robot and a machine. And you don't have to be nice to machines. You don't have to say, are you okay? When did you last say that to your microwave? You could correct that tonight. Speak to your appliances. I bet who speaks to their computer? Yes.